Hello, Firsties. Today we're going to do a comparison between Cinderella and Bubba the Cowboy Prince. First of all, let's review what we know about fairy tales. Do you know anything about fairy tales? I bet you do. Let's take a look here. First of all, fairy tales have some element of magic or fantasy in them. That means they're going to be fiction, right? Also, there's going to be good versus evil. And they begin once upon a time or some version of once upon a time. Of course, they have a setting. And in the end of our fairy tales, they're going to end happily ever after. One of my favorite things about fairy tales. Let's analyze these two stories. Did Cinderella have magic or fantasy? Yes. Remember, she had the fairy godmother. He turned the pumpkin into a carriage. And did Bubba have magic or fantasy? Yes. He had the fairy god cow, which changed his clothes. Did they have good versus evil? Yes, she had her wicked stepsisters and her mean stepmother. And then in Bubba, yes, he had his two mean stepbrothers and his mean stepdaddy. And how did they begin? Cinderella begins once upon a time. Oh, that's nice spell time. There was a girl named Cinderella. Yeah, got it in there. Whoop, put my period. Setting, it says right, the main setting in the box below. Mainly it happened in her house, most of the story, but we know that eventually she went to the castle. So this would be the main one. And did it end happily ever after? Yes. She rode off into the sunset with the prince. Okay, let's see. Bubba. How did Bubba begin? It began just a little bit different. Look for the story. It says, once a strapping young feller named Bubba. So I'm going to write that down. Once, comma, a strapping young feller named Bubba. And the setting, that was at the ranch. There were two different ranches. Did it end happily ever after? Yes, he rode into the sunset with Miss Lurleen, getting them doggies along. Now, there are various other versions of the Cinderella story, and if you wanted to do one of these, I've put one of these in Google Classroom. Don't have to do it, but if you want to, you can. And let me mention some of the other versions of Cinderella. We've already discussed Cinderella. Now, Cinderella involved kings and queens. That's my dog, Sophie. So I would think it probably happened over here in Europe somewhere, maybe in England, where they have royalty. Here's in red, Bubba the Cowboy Prince. That would be somewhere in Texas. And let me zoom on in a little bit more. And then there's another one. This was actually by Robert Munch, Ye Shin, and it is about a Chinese Cinderella. I'm gonna listen to that one. And then there's one called The Rough Face Girl, and that's about a Native American. And so generally they lived in this area. And there's Bubba. And then Mafaro's Beautiful Daughters, which originated in Africa. So all different versions of Cinderella that you might want to listen to. Okay, now we're going to do our Venn diagram. You spell that V-E-N-N, a Venn diagram. It has two overlapping circles. On this side, things that just happened in Cinderella. This side, things that just happened in Bubba the Cowboy Prince. And in the middle, things that happen in both. Well, let's take a look at them. Both of them are fairy tales, so I'm going to put that there. F-A-I-R-Y, tales. They both had magic. Both of them had a midnight curfew. Remember, all the magic disappeared at midnight? So I'm going to put on here midnight. Had special significance in these stories. Both of them had a dance. Both of them started out with the ragged clothes in the beginning. Okay, then the magic came, and then they got fancy clothes. Let's see, what else? Both of them were bullied by somebody. Their stepbrothers and stepsisters were not very kind to them. Both Cinderella and Bubba were both very kind people. They were hard workers. And you probably thought of some others that I didn't. But let's go over here and let's discuss. Oh, sorry about that. So let's discuss the things that are a little bit different. First of all, Cinderella was a girl. And Bubba was a guy. Our main characters were different. Let's see. The magic happened on this side from the godmother. And this was the god cow. This one had the step brothers. Two of them, and then the stepdaddy. And this had the step sisters. There's three of them, and then the step mother. Okay, this one, the setting was in a house, in a castle. And this one was on a ranch. Actually, there were two of them. Ranches. Let's see, can you think of anything else? Let's see, this one had royalty or royals. And this had Western people or cowboys. Girls. Okay, and they were both ended happily ever after. And like I said, I'm sure there are things that you're thinking of that you're yelling at me right now. But I just can't hear you. Anyway, this is a good description of how we would do a Venn diagram. And this makes sure that we comprehend or we understand the stories that we're doing. All right, what you have to turn in for this week is, and I have a turn in. This is Bubba the Cowboy Prince, the story analysis. This should be pretty easy for you because I'm going to go over it with you so you don't have to worry about the spelling. You just have to do what I do and get an easy 100 in my grade. But let's talk about our characters. Of course, our main character was Bubba. And let's see, the other pen. And then we had his two brothers, Dwayne. D-W-A-Y-N-E. And we had Milton, M-I-L-T-O-N. Then we had the stepdaddy. And we had Ms. Lurling. Remember they said Ms. Laeen. And then we had the god cow. Okay, so you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters. The setting, where did it happen? Ranch. I don't really know what season it was. I'm guessing it was summer. Looked pretty hot. It was in the daytime. And at night. Most of it was in the daytime, though. The problem, always have a problem figuring out the problem. And I thought of 2 different ones. Well, problem was that he was being bullied. Another problem was he couldn't get to the dance. But then I had to think, which one am I going to choose? Well, I think Bubba didn't really see the fact that he was being bullied as a problem, because he loved working on the ranch. Even though they were his stepbrothers and stepdaddies were mean to him, he still loved doing what he was doing, and he was happy with that. When he really got sad is when he couldn't go to the dance. So I'm going to put his problem was he couldn't go to the dance. Because, oops, I spelled that wrong. D-A-N-C-E. Oh, did y'all see that up there? The setting? I'll zoom out in a minute. He couldn't go to the dance, period. And we knew that was because he didn't have any nice clothes and he stunk. All right, so then our solution is, well, how did that problem get fixed? Well, his god cow used magic to make Sneaky E make him nice clothes. Exclamation point. And I guess you use magic to make him not stink too. Although Miss Lurleen says she remembered the stinky cowboy. She liked it like that. All right, so this is what you have to turn in. You can pause this right here, and you can do one of these a day. You can do it all at one time. Just make sure I get it by Friday, because that's when I post it all in my little grade book. So you want an easy 100? Just get this turned in on time. Now be sure and listen to the other stories. They're really nice. Bye.